Hello you guys, so today I'm going to be doing a video where I recommend my top 13 books to read during quarantine. I know that right now it's a very difficult time for a lot of people. I know that things are rough. By reading some books, I have allowed myself to escape the reality and kind of concentrate on the stories that I've read, and I hope that you guys are in a position to do the same. So if you are, these are the book recommendations that I have, and if you have any books to recommend, just leave them down below. Okay, so I decided to start off the video by recommending one of my top authors, favorite of mine, and that's Isabel Allende. Isabel Allende is an amazing writer. She writes beautiful stories, she creates beautiful characters. So I can start off by recommending one of my favorite books from her, which was actually the first book I ever read, which is The House of Spirits. So The House of Spirits follows the Trueba family. Isabel does an amazing job at painting not just each character, but the family home, the traditions, the way that things are around this family. So it follows her daughter Blanca, who gets involved with the man, and it's kind of a forbidden love romance. You're gonna see a lot of family struggles and the way that sometimes certain family members have to be respected, even though you don't really understand or even agree with the way that they think. But I still think it's an amazing story. I highly recommend it. Then we have the Stories of Eva Luna. Okay, you guys, this book is so beautiful. Okay, so the story has to do with Eva Luna, who is basically this girl who has just these vibrant and crazy stories she likes to tell. So her lover in this book tells her pretty much, tell me a story you've never told anyone before. And she starts to tell all these stories that are so beautiful, they're so vibrant, and I don't even know how to explain this book. I just think it's one of the most beautiful books I've ever read. I remember the first time I read this book, I think I kept going back to it for like 2 weeks and just reading little parts of it because it's so beautiful. I don't think it's recommended that much, or it has the attention it deserves, but highly recommend. Okay, and then we have The Art of Hearing Heartbeats by Jan-Philipp Sendker. Another beautiful book. The story basically revolves around Julia, whose father has gone missing. They don't know what's going on with him. They don't even really know much about him, and she even admits throughout the story that she didn't really know her father that well. Julia ends up finding a love letter that he wrote to this lady in Burma, and basically Julia's like, okay, what's going on? He was married to my mom, and now I'm finding this love letter to another woman who was his like one true love. Well, Julia goes to find this lady, and through her journey of looking for her dad and who he was, she finds so many people that knew him. She finds so many lovely characters, and it just ends up changing her life. And it's honestly so beautiful. It again, very similar to Isabel Allende, this author does an amazing job at describing the characters, describing the country, and everything around this book is just so beautiful. Even the cover is so beautiful. Like, look at that. So beautiful. And then we're gonna go to something a little bit more contemporary. We're gonna go ahead, I have 2 books to recommend for this one. So we have Christina Lauren, Roomies, which again, if you watched my previous video, I do recommend a couple of Christina Lauren books. So I decided to recommend something that wasn't in that video, and I'm gonna go with a Roomie. Okay, so this story basically revolves around Holland and Calvin. Okay, so Holland is basically this girl who's been working with her uncles who are trying to put a musical together in New York. Holland has this crush on Calvin, who she sees in the subway station all the time. He's playing his music, he's a singer, and she's just like infatuated by him. Eventually he auditions for the uncle's musical, and it goes great, they love it, but he's an immigrant, so he doesn't actually have rights to work anywhere in the US. So then Holland agrees to marry him in order for him to stay in the US and start working, and that's basically what the story revolves around. But it's very funny. I actually love the characters, love the story. It's super fun, it's super cute. Again, another Christina Lauren book, super cute. Then we have Colleen Hoover's Confess. So this book, actually I don't rave about it much, but it's honestly really great. I read it last time and I'm like, this book is so cute. I don't know why I don't recommend it enough. But it has to do with Auburn, who basically is looking for a job, and then she steps into this Houston studio and she meets Owen. She starts working with Owen, who is an artist. So basically Owen, how he creates his art is people leave confessions to him. They basically drop them in a little box, and Owen will create a drawing out of it or a painting out of it. One of the really cool things about this book is that Colleen actually includes art. So for example, look at that, so beautiful. The story is basically, again, confess. It's about confessions. Colleen Hoover does her secrets, twists, everything beautiful in this book. I've actually never watched the series. I know that they brought out the show, and some people were raving about it. Some people are not too crazy about it. Do you guys recommend to watch the series? If you do, leave a comment down below. But love this story, super cute. I actually really loved Owen and Auburn in this story, so another great coho book. Then now we're gonna move to thrillers. I don't have a lot of thriller books, which is kind of disappointing. I tend to only really read thrillers during winter, but one of my favorite K.A. Tucker books that's a thriller is He Will Be My Ruin. And great. So the story is basically about this girl named Celine who ends up killing herself, and everybody's kind of questioning why. She had a very successful life. She was basically at the peak of her career. And her friend Maggie ends up going to New York, ends up cleaning out Celine's apartment, and that is how she discovers a lot of secrets that Celine was keeping and no one knew. So through the story, you'll see basically that Maggie's trying to uncover what her friend was hiding, why she never told anyone, and what was really happening in her life, and who was involved. This is a really great book. I highly recommend it. It had me twisting and turning and flipping and everything. I literally could not figure out what was happening in parts of the book. I was just like, wait a minute, what is even going on here? But I think it's an amazing book. This was one of the books that I actually we read for my book club. So this book is basically about this girl named Brienne who is suffering from like memory loss and a couple of health issues, and she has a roommate who's a doctor, and he takes care of her and she takes care of him, and then they start to just create a friendship. And at some points, obviously she's suffering with a lot of mental issues and a lot of health issues, so she doesn't really know what's real and what's not, and she comes across some people that she doesn't know if she should trust or not. And it's a really great book. I can't really say much about it because I don't want to spoil it, but I highly recommend it. It definitely had us like asking a whole bunch of questions. I remember when we were reading this book, we were like, wait a minute, who is this person? What do you guys think this person is doing? Can we even really trust the character, the main character, or is she delusional? So we didn't know, but great book. So this recommendation is for anybody that wants to read a feel-good book. This recommendation is super girly. I read these books a long time ago. It's a trilogy, and I'm pretty sure everybody knows. It actually has a Netflix movie, so highly recommend. And it's gonna be Jenny Han's To All the Boys. So can I just talk about the fact that these are the cutest covers ever? I remember when I first saw these covers, I was like, how freaking cute are these? Look at that. Jenny Han is like the most adorable author ever. She always bakes and she has like a whole bunch of cute stuff. And in some of the books, I think she even put some recipes in here. I'm pretty sure I saw that before. But so To All the Boys, I'm pretty sure everybody knows what the books are about. It's basically about this girl named Lara Jean who gets involved. She makes a contract with this guy named Peter, who's like the popular guy in school. They make a contract basically where they'll lie and say that they're together to get his ex-girlfriend jealous and to basically cover up the front that she has a crush on her next door neighbor who was also dating her sister. Again, super cute books. There's 3 parts of it. You guys have the 2 movies on Netflix. Anything's gonna keep you entertained. If you want to get away from everything and just kind of read something really cute, recommend these. Highly recommend them. So adorable. And then if you guys have already read these and you don't know what else to read, Jenny Han actually has another trilogy, The Samari Turned Pretty, super cute too. I don't really love it as much as I love To All the Boys, but it's still very cute. And then now we have the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. And this book is by Mary Ann Shaffer and Annie Barrows. Yes. Oh my god, it's a mouthful. Okay, so this is also a movie now, and it's with Lily James, which I love. I love her. She's so cute. So this book is actually during 1940s. Juliet is actually a writer, and she gets a letter from this anonymous person who writes to her about this book club that they have together, and it's the Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society book club. And so the way that the book club was formed was during the Germans were occupying their island, so they weren't really able to do much. And they would hide books and start reading them, kind of discussing them, which was something that they were not allowed to do. And yeah, they basically write a letter out to Juliet, and Juliet's she goes out to their island to explore and kind of get to know them, and she kind of meets all these characters start to unfold their story of what was happening to them during the German occupation and certain things that happened. She finds a lot of love in these characters. She kind of starts to question what she really wants her life to be, and it's just a beautiful historical. And then the movie is so funny too, you guys. I love the book and the movie, but the movie, I think the characters are so amazing, and it's such a funny movie. I love this book. Now we're gonna go ahead and move over to my last recommendations, which are 2 books, and they fall under the classics. So the first book that I'm gonna recommend is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. And you guys, this book is so cute. It's so adorable, so sad at the same time, but it's so magic. The author did an amazing job at describing all the magic of this book. Is basically about this girl named Mary whose parents die, and she goes to live with her uncle. Her uncle is not nice. The family, they're just not living a very happy life. They're struggling with a lot of things that have happened, and Mary kind of has to deal with everything on her own. So her and a couple of her little friends, they find a garden that's a secret garden and is not in great condition. So with the help of Mary, her cousin, and I think it's one of the other friends, they basically make the garden come to life. And it's beautiful. It's an amazing story. It's definitely a classic. Then we have the last book I'm going to recommend, and it's Little Woman by Louisa May Alcott. So love this book. I read this book a long time ago when I was actually in high school, and it is such a beautiful book. Definitely a classic, and now it is a movie, and it is a beautiful movie. The book revolves around the 4 sisters, Beth, Jo, Amy, and Meg, and you get to meet every single one of those characters through the book. You get to fall in love with each one of them through the best parts and the worst parts of the characters. And I think the book just does an amazing job at describing what these sisters had to go through during the, I believe it's a Civil War. Yeah, during the Civil War. And I mean, you guys, it's just an amazing book. It's so beautiful. Each of the sisters is so different. I never had any sisters, but I only assume that having them, you have the bestest friends ever, and also there's some rivalry in there, which this book perfectly describes. It's just a beautiful book. I can't recommend it enough. It is a little bit on the longer side, but I still think it's beautiful, and I still think it's amazing that it has a movie that you guys can always watch. But yeah, I highly recommend this book. That is it for today. I hope you guys loved my recommendations. If you guys have, again, anything else to recommend, any comments, leave them down below. I will also link my Instagram, which you guys can follow. I post all of my book recommendations and everything else in there. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.